And during that fight, apparently Thomas hit his wife with his cane and ended up strangling her.
Thomas Cook would be just an angry, angry spirit. He is definitely trying to say, I'm here, I'm angry, and I'm gonna make your life as miserable as you made mine.
When I was a child, growing up in Woodstock, Ontario, I was taught about the gruesome life and death of a man who was claimed to be the most infamous ghost of Woodstock. I was told many folktale stories regarding this ghost, and it had been on my mind for many years. I decided to do some digging in my hometown of Woodstock to see what I could find.
My name is Liz Dommasch, and I am the coordinator of legislative information archivist for the County of Oxford. I think history is important because it tells us so much about our past, which I think helps dictate our future. I mean, information comes in a variety of forms. So with Thomas Cook in particular, we have early newspaper articles. We actually have a copy of his death mask here at the archives. And then we also just have newspaper articles that are more current, based on the past, and then just kind of word of mouth as well.
Thomas Cook?
Yes, do you know anything about him?
Yes, I do.
All I know is that he was hung here in Woodstock, and I believe it was over behind the courthouse in there's the public health building, that's what it is now, and there's kind of like a bell tower that's quite large, and I believe he was hung in there.
Well, I just know that there's a face that's outside the jail that's embedded. I'm not sure what his name is, if it's Thomas Cook or not.
One time, me and my friends, we were gonna go to the jailhouse where he his head is, and we were about to go in, but then we saw a headless figure walking through the window, and we got too scared and we left.
I never thought that there'd be ghosts in Woodstock other than the theater, but
I would say Thomas Cook is probably our most famous of folk tales. Thomas Cook was born in England, and he arrived in Oxford County around 1816. His second wife was a woman named Bridget Morton, and she was about 12 years younger than Thomas was. Apparently she was not of the most quality of characters. They were both apparently quite heavy drinkers, and apparently they used to have a lot of fights. And so on July 16, 1862, apparently Thomas hit his wife and ended up strangling her. Thomas was eventually found guilty and was sentenced to hang on December 16, 1862. Now, Thomas was our first public execution here in the county. The day of his execution, the paper reported there was about 3,400 people here to watch him being hung, and apparently they didn't equate enough rope for the weight of Thomas. And when he was hung, his head actually popped off and rolled into the crowd. So quite gruesome, and you can imagine with a crowd of 3,400 people, mostly women, it was a bit of a shock. As part of English tradition, they did create a death mask of Thomas, and that today is actually still on the door of the former county jail. Apparently, after the fact, some money exchanged hands, and instead of returning his body to Innerkip for burial, it actually ended up with a doctor on Dundas Street here in Woodstock, and they actually used the body for autopsies and for medical research. And then once they were done with Thomas's body, they actually buried him in the backyard.
Could you tell us what we've got here?
Yeah, so this is actually a plaster mold of the Thomas Cook death mask. It is on the front of the jail. A bit of I'm guessing what he would have looked like at the time. I don't know if there was any kind of artistic licensing in the mold itself, but this is what would have been on the jail and still is. So these are transcriptions from the newspaper from 1862 about the actual trial. Articles that were posted in the paper at the time about the trial and the case. So then these are some newspaper articles from the 80s and 90s talking about the actual hauntings of the courthouse.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So this was the courthouse. This isn't the jailhouse.
No, so this is the inside of the courthouse. Okay. These are actually the stairs within the building. So,
oh, wow.
Mr. Ernie Hunt was the gentleman who worked for the county that claimed that it was haunted.
After speaking with Liz and looking through the archives, I set out to begin preparing to do some investigating on the paranormal side of things. I met up with paranormal expert Shane McLaren from a nearby town to discuss investigating the Thomas Cook hauntings.
My name is Shane McLaren. My hobby and side interest, if you will, is paranormal investigating. I've been investigating paranormal for most of my life on my own, just due to, personal experiences, and then decided to join a group a little over 10 years ago now. I think I've believed in spirits and ghosts for most of my life. There was a time when I was younger that I thought it was something people made up to scare kids. And then the more that I couldn't explain things that were happening around me, the more I thought maybe there's a little more to this. For us, what we do as paranormal investigators is we'll use some equipment. There's EMF detectors, which detect electromagnetic fields, which is the spirit's energy, essentially, to say, okay, we had activity in this area. We'll come back to it and recheck it. We also use audio meters, very sensitive audio recorders, and just regular cameras. We use night vision cameras just to, try to capture as much as we can. I totally believe that spirits can attach themselves to objects, especially something like a mask that is, their likeness. It's something that is personal to them. Thomas Cook would be just an angry spirit. We have residual, which is, a spirit that's maybe doesn't even realize they've passed, and they go through the motions every day, and they don't even know they're gone. Then there's the active spirits, which I would say is Thomas Cook. If he's doing anything to disrupt or startle or scare, then he is definitely trying to say, I'm here, I'm angry, and I'm gonna make your life as miserable as you made mine.
Later that evening, my camera crew and I set out to investigate the local graveyard, where it is rumored that both Thomas Cook and his wife have been buried with unmarked graves. During our investigation, we ran into a ton of strange issues with our equipment. Despite our technical issues, we managed to pick up some very strange recordings with our audio. This is some of the stuff that our microphone picked up through the night. Okay, so we had a few weird experiences here. Everybody's starting to feel a little uncomfortable. There's some frequency being picked up, I guess, on the mic, and we're hearing some weird woman's voice or something. And Auden's getting a little freaked out, so we're gonna go over to the jailhouse and see if we can find Thomas Cook here.
I think we should leave. I'm starting to feel real uncomfortable here.
You know, I'm not entirely sure how they determined that body was Thomas Cook. I think, again, it was probably partly folklore and people's remembering of the events that occurred in 1862. I think the folklore around Thomas Cook is definitely alive and kicking. And I think it's an interesting one to keep sharing and keep telling. I have heard rumblings from staff and visitors at both the courthouse and the jail of some sort of ghostly sightings. We did have a number of years back a school group in, and one of the parent chaperones was apparently a psychic medium, and she told us we had an evil entity in our building. I have certainly heard rumors of Thomas Cook wandering the former jail looking for his head.
I believe that his style of haunting would be directly related to how he died. He wasn't a great man in life, so to expect anything different in death, I think would be silly. I think his spirit would be every bit as angry and bitter.
After our investigation, I continued to do research to work toward the truth regarding Thomas Cook and whether or not his ghost still remains. The evidence we gathered during our investigation has all of us convinced without a doubt that something supernatural has a hold on Woodstock's old jailhouse. Until it is fully proven, I am convinced Thomas Cook is still here in Woodstock, haunting the old jailhouse until the end of time for as long as his death